Natural resources are something that's very important to each of us because every living thing on the whole beautiful planet Earth uses resources. Um, for instance, as humans, we use resources to provide shelter, transportation, food, clothing, and our whole society is built using natural resources. Some examples that we have used in our society is to build buildings, roads, electricity, things like our homes, schools, restaurants. All of that is built using natural resources. Um, so, natural resources are things that the earth provides, and we basically use those as is. For instance, like, a tree growing an apple and we just eat it as is, or we take those things and form them into new things, like using copper to help us with our electricity and to carry energy. So Earth's organisms are a natural resource for us, meaning the plants and the animals that are here are a resource for us, and they're a resource for each other. Um, and Earth's nutrients, the rocks, the water, the minerals, those are all examples of the natural resources that are here on the earth. And we get those, they can come from the soil, from the air, from the water, from inside of the earth. We can mine it in order to get these resources. So, um, there's a good way and a kind of a bad way to use resources. And the good way is to use it as a sustainable yield. A sustainable yield is using resources um, at the same rate or slower than what they are replaced. So, in other words, not using any more water than what the area gains through rain, or not cutting down the entire forest of trees, but just taking a few trees, planting seedlings, and then as you need more trees, cut down a few more, plant seedlings, but at a rate that the forest can always regenerate. And this is something that we're always trying to get to, although as humans, we haven't quite gotten there yet in every way. In some ways, we are. So here's a cool picture of some different things that we use. So, renewable resources are resources that will be replaced in a reasonable amount of time, like a short amount of time. Now, something like I said, apples or fruit, crops, rain, those will all be replaced. Your book says soil, fresh air, excuse me, those will all be replaced in a very short amount of time. So those are considered renewable resources because just in a few, like almost instantaneously, in the case of like sunlight, um, we'll get more of it. But in some instances, just a few years, we will get some more of that back again. Some renewable resources are inexhaustible. That means it goes on forever. And that would be like solar energy is inexhaustible, at least in our lifetime. The sun isn't going to burn out for, several billion years. So we can use that continuously. So, some ways that we try to make a sustainable yield for our renewable resources is planting crops every year that we take down, we use them, and then we plant more. Using the sun, using rain, organic matter as fertilizers, animals that we raise for food, forests that we use in a sustainable way. And this is a cool picture of a bamboo, um, basically farm. And bamboo is essentially a grass. And because it's like a grass, but it's a very woody, tall grass, like a tree, it is cut down and planed into very, very thin boards but it's considered a very sustainable and pretty wood, and something that you're going to see more and more of because of how fast it can be regenerated. When they cut it down, it's not like a tree where the whole thing dies. It's like a grass, like you cut the lawn and it'll grow right back. So this is a cool picture in your house of non-renewable resources that are in your house. So look over that picture. But a non-renewable resource is something where there is a limited quantity of it on the planet. And even if the earth can make more of it, it's not going to happen in our lifetime. So an example of that is coal. So coal and oil and natural gas, there's a limited quantity on the earth, and we're not going to be able to make a whole new set of it in our lifetime. It's going to take millions of years, so that's considered non-renewable to us. um, Now the earth will rebuild it over time, but it won't be usable in our lifetime, so we consider that non-renewable. So some examples that are really important are like copper, which we use for electricity. Jewels like diamonds or gold, silver, different types of rock are considered non-renewable. Okay, so here's a really cool graphic that I really liked that shows how much natural resources are used per person across the globe. And you can see that per person, we in the United States are using more than $15,000 a year in non-renewable resources. And I look at that as for my own family and going, wait, there's no way. I don't even, there's 7 of us in our family. There's no way I'm spending $15,000 per person a year. That might be true, but this is an average, which means other people could be raising that number up. But additionally, if you look at government and what the government is building as far as natural, using natural resources in my behalf, um, this is possible. And so, that's just the average of natural resources that are being used. Interestingly, the poorer the country is, tends to be, the less they are actually spending on natural resources, which you would expect that. They don't have as much money. I got to spend some time down here in Guatemala over this last summer, and they do not have a lot of natural resources. In fact, even water, many of the homes did not even have water. It was just like metal sidings that were kind of put together. Maybe they had a roof, maybe they did not, but there wasn't even water in many of the homes. So they're clearly not using very much in the way of natural resource. This year I'm going to be heading to Africa um, and down into Kenya, and you can see that they are in the same situation where they're using very, very little natural resources per person. It's very healthy for the planet. Um, though it is hard, it's a hard way to live. I almost think like if we could just reduce this a little bit and not be quite so $15,000 per person, maybe more towards here, that it would help out the earth and the planet quite a bit to just be using a little bit less on the natural resources.